Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. Those are watching us live. This is Sam Dosa, business coach and a mentor and burnout specialist, with my co-host Ritu Sharma, women's empowerment coach, and we have a amazing guest called Mahay, immersion coach. And the topic what we have today, the hidden power of your potential or hidden power of potential. Well, Kindle Your True Power basically is a segment with me and my co-host Ritu, and we are what we are trying to do is bring in amazing guests to share their knowledge, share their passion, share their actually wisdom with us, with our audience, and we have a privilege to bring in Kul Mahay to this platform, and I will let my co-host to take from here.
Hello everyone. Hello Kul, you're most welcome here, and you don't know how excited Sam and myself have been to have you here. So welcome and thank you for taking your time to be with us tonight.
Thank you.
And I would like to tell everybody about Kul. Yes, he's an immersion coach, but he's much more than that. He develops leaders, and because he's been in a leadership role for a very long time himself in different vicinities, including in police force, he has a wide experience of life. He has seen the society from very close point of view, and from an eagle's point of view as well. Being a coach, he's done wonders with businesses in the corporate world, with individuals, and he has transformed many lives. And I think I can go on and on about it, but Kul is the best person to tell us about more of what he has done and achieved. So Kul, over to you, please.
Thank you so much. Well, before I go any further, thank you so much, Sam and Ritu, for having me on your show. It's an absolute privilege and honor. I guess, leadership is my passion, and I've spent 32 years in the British Police Service and the UK Police Service, and 20 of those years were in leadership roles. I've also done a lot of leadership when it comes to charity. So I've always been intrigued by what motivates people, what activates people, and how people think, and what separates those people who tend to be successful in life from those people who tend not to be so successful in life. And as Ritu has already suggested, I have seen life at its lowest points for so many people. I've seen people who have had loved ones torn away from them. I used to investigate murders, and I've seen loved ones being torn away from families, and the families being at the lowest point and, shattered. But then I've also seen individuals rise up, and I've seen them become extraordinary. So I've always been intrigued by, where does this secret power come from? This power that gives human beings the ability to overcome such huge trauma in their life and go on to do extraordinary things. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite bits of TV, and I don't watch much TV, but one of my favorite bits of TV is when I watch Paralympics.
Yeah.
And here we see people who are labeled by society as being disabled, meaning that they are less able than normal people. And yet what they do on there is much more able than most able-bodied people.
Exactly.
And so again, it's this secret power that they're tapping into. And I think, we going live, society and life largely labels people. And when it labels people, that's when, we get sucked up into this labeling. And so we behave and we act in accordance with a label that we've been given. The label might be at one end, it could be things like your color. Your color is X, Y, Z, and therefore you are expected to behave like this. Now that really annoys me, because we use the excuse of diversity to homogenize people and label people and put them into little buckets, expecting that all Indians, all Pakistanis, all black people, all white people will be exactly the same. And that's ridiculous. True diversity for me is recognizing that every single person is different. But the one similarity that we all have, and it's whether we use it or not, is this secret power that we have. We were all born with it. We were all born with incredible power within us. And as some people will say, well, you know, it's easy for you to say that you have 2 arms, 2 legs. But if you look at some of the people, one of my favorite people is Nick Vujicic. Now, I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever seen anything that Nick has done, but I've had the great honor of seeing Nick live 2 times now, and had the huge honor of being able to speak with him. Now, this is a guy who's born with no arms and no legs. But what he does and what he has done with his life is absolutely incredulous. Just like the Paralympians, what they do with their life is absolutely incredulous. So I think what these kind of individuals do, whether they are able-bodied, less able-bodied, what they do is they tap into this incredible pool of power that we have within us. And they know the secret of activating that power. And that's why, you know, much of what I do comes under the title of igniting your inner potential, because I think that we have this incredible potential, and all we really need to do is spark it. We need to light the fire underneath it and stoke it so that your true potential comes out.
Super.
Absolutely.
And you know how you've just said that everyone has that hidden potential within themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the actual, it's just a matter of lighting the match. And then, you know, we can expect that explosion of development, of growth,
Yeah.
happiness from within that individual. But you must have seen, I'm sure you have, that a lot of people fail to see that they do actually have that hidden treasure within them.
Yeah.
So, of course, they would need somebody to help them tap into that. But if somebody was looking at themselves in the mirror, Cole, what is it that you would say to look for, to be able to see that hidden treasure within?
Well, you know, I do this with my clients all the time. I do ask them to look in the mirror. But the strange thing is, Ritu, that, you know, we all look in the mirror, don't we? We all look in the mirror to comb our hair, to maybe if you're a lady, you put your
Put
makeup
some
on.
makeup on you, yeah.
Yeah. You know, we're always
Yeah.
looking in the mirror. But how often, and this is a real issue for me, how often do we really look in the mirror? How often do we look into our eyes? How often do we look deep into our soul in the mirror and recognize ourselves for who we truly are? You see, when we're combing our hair, when we're putting our makeup on, what are we doing? We're actually creating a mask of the person that we want to be seen as. So before I leave my house today, I want my hair to look tidy, you know, a fella might say, or I need to have a shave. Or a lady might say, I need to make sure my mascara is just right, because it's how the outside world is going to see me. But what we don't do is say to ourselves, okay, take all of this off. I'm going to mess my hair up. I want to look at me. I want to look at the real me. I want to look into my eyes. And they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So I very often ask my clients to look in the mirror, not talk, just look in the mirror, but look into their own eyes for a period of time. It's an incredible thing to do. And most of us find it very difficult to do.
Yeah, and I believe if people start doing that, then even if they don't get any answers from looking into the eye, they'll definitely get a question that needs to be answered somehow.
Yes, here's
So,
the other
yeah.
thing. A lot of people don't do what a lot of coaches might suggest that they do, purely and simply because they want action, they want answers and results just like that. We live in a society now where everything is digitized. We live in a society now where we get instant gratification. If we want to make a meal, we don't even have to cook the meal nowadays. We don't even have to go to the microwave oven and heat up a meal up, because we can pick up the phone, maybe not even pick the phone up. We can now just order it on our phone without having to bother to talk to a human being. And the food will arrive at your doorstep fresh, and the food will arrive piping hot. So I'm not saying we've become lazy as a society, but what I am saying is that as a society, we are expecting immediate results with the most minimal amount of effort. And that is all the messages. If you look at all the messages in society, it is all about that. How can you do less and get more? And how can you get it straight away?
And
So
you've just said that you don't think it's necessarily lazy, but could I say, well, it would lead to laziness because we tend to make everything easier. We would like to everything to be ready made, served in front of us. And you know how you've just said that we can do everything online and we don't even have to bother to talk to someone. The communication skills have gone down so badly, and I think communication not just with the outside world but also with yourself, speaking to yourself and finding out what is it that's needed to be done. And of course, I agree with what you're saying. We have become a society where we're relying for ready-made answers.
But the
Yeah.
answers are already out there as well. So if we are genuinely searching for an answer, the answers are already there. I very often say there is nothing that I'm going to say that is going to be rocket science. There is nothing.
Yes.
There is nothing that
Yes.
I say that is coming out of Mahay's brain. I haven't created any of the stuff that I say. This stuff has been around for thousands of years. This wisdom, this knowledge has been around for thousands of years. But people treat it like it's a secret. There was a book called The Secret,
Yes.
suggesting that this was all a secret. It's no secret. There is no secret behind this. There is no secret to growth, to personal growth. What there is hard work. Because, when we talk about law of attraction, people then get sucked up into believing that you can just dream something, visualize something, dream it, expect it to happen, and it will materialize.
Yes.
Now, there's some element of truth to that, because I'm very big into the energy that we give off. We're electromagnetic beings, and the energy that we give off, the law of physics says, like attracts like. But you won't get whatever it is that you're dreaming about unless you put the action in, and your action then has to be in alignment with what your desires are. And this is where we trip ourselves up. So many of us are not prepared to put the action in. Why? Because the action is hard. It's hard to do. It takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes energy. And we're not prepared to spend that kind of energy. Why? Because our society now tells us that we can sit back, kick back, expect things to happen, press a few buttons, and it will arrive. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Even as
You're
Sorry,
completely
go on,
right
sir.
about that one. So I think it's quite interesting over here is this morning I was talking to one of my clients as well, that you can't wait and expect things to fall onto your lap. You need to go out, you need to interact, and then you need to talk what you are offering. So you can't just say, I'm going to be sitting in one corner and I'm just going to pray and everything is going to be hunky-dory. I'm going to visualize and everything is going to be hunky-dory. This is not the way it's going to be, because we have to work hard. We have to go out. We have to interact. We have to talk to people. We have to tell people who you are, what you do. It's very important. You can't just say, okay, I can sell your product. It's easy for me to sell it, but then why I need you? Yeah,
exactly.
Why I need you? So if I'm going to be selling your product, then I will be taking over from you, and then I'm going to be that product becomes my product and my services.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
What you are referring over here is quite significant of inner potential, inner light. One has to discover themselves. I can't discover your light, and you can't discover my light.
Yeah,
this is inner light. Yeah, and as you said, energy being. Yes, we are energy being. We are sending messages via our energies to one another, and it's quite important that we are keeping our energy clean, because if you are interacting with the wrong people, your energy is going to be contaminated with wrong people, wrong energy, and you are not going to grow. You're going to go downhill. That's why, as you said, we influence ourselves with the right people, so we get the right amount of right people energy, right positive energy to grow further and further.
Absolutely right. One of the things that when I was investigating serious crime, for example, evidence, obviously, when you're a police officer and you're investigating any kind of crime, is very, very important. But one of the things that we looked at when it was serious crime, let's say it's a murder, we used to look for not just fingerprints. We didn't just look for fingerprints. We looked for DNA. We looked for blood. We looked for transference, where, if you rub two articles together, they will transfer onto each other. Now, if you just think of that, that's just one language from the police service. But actually, that same language applies in life. When you touch something, when you touch someone, you leave an indelible fingerprint on that person, your unique mark on that person. You therefore have a choice to make sure that mark is a positive mark or a negative mark. Okay, that is your choice. Now, sometimes we might be having a bad day and we go out there and, you know, the first person that cuts us up in the road, as somebody did to me today, you can start swearing and shouting. But what
Yeah.
mark have you left on that person? And could you have had a better choice? You know, could you have not responded from the emotional center of your brain? Could you have taken a moment of pause to just look through that and say, with your logic side, say to yourself, you know, perhaps that person was busy, perhaps they were rushing somewhere, perhaps they had an important meeting. And when it comes to the whole transference of things, every time you brush up against somebody, they are leaving part of their DNA on you. Now, if you're mixing with the wrong people, then they are going to leave a part of their DNA on you. If you keep the company of people who drink, you probably end up drinking an awful lot. If you keep the company of people who swear an awful lot, you probably start using foul-mouthed language. If you keep the company of people who are dishonest, the chances are that you will become dishonest. If you keep the company of people who are good, pure, supportive, and have a coaching mentality, you too will develop that coaching mentality, but also your mindset will be much more empowered to go and achieve so much more.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Absolutely.
That was beautiful. That was brilliant. Exactly. And you know, as coaches, I was going to say, Cole, that all we can do is just like the match. It is still up to the individual after that, as you said, putting in the hard work and, you know, pulling themselves up and getting on with their journey of personal development and self growth. Now, you haven't seen both ends, extreme ends, I'd say, being a police officer yourself, dealing with crime, major crime, and having a coach dealing with individuals at a personal level and businesses. Where do you see the world is heading as a whole?
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
That's a big question, and that is a concern, really, what I understand at the moment. We need to know where the world is headed with the sort of things we face on a day-to-day basis.
I'd like to answer that question in two ways, okay?
Yeah.
And I know that you'll appreciate both ways. So let me answer that question first in a materialistic way, and then let me answer that question in a spiritual way. Because in a materialistic sense, in a physical sense, and I think where the world is going is, you know, we are living in this fast-paced world. This world is this world is largely geared by ego, driven by ego. One person's ego to another person's ego to another person's ego. We have so much talk around some very strong political leaders around the world who have got very, very extreme views. You only have to switch on the television to hear what, you know, Europe and the UK are saying about Russia, what Donald Trump in America says about Russia, says about Syria, says about Iran, and all these other countries. So you've got these very strong leaders, and they're all like this at the moment. And it would be very easy to judge the world based on those few individuals. But we're talking maybe 10 to 15 people that we're talking about there. Whereas the world is made up of 7.5 billion people. So sometimes we very often measure the world by these people who we think have the ultimate power, but they don't have the ultimate power. True power comes from the people that exist in the world. And it really is dependent on how they utilize that power. If 7.5 billion people were to rise up and say, we want peace throughout the world, you would get peace throughout the world. If 7.5 billion people in the world said that, you know, we don't want any countries in the world, we want to be one country, you would be one country in the world. So that's the latent power that exists in the world. But where is it going at this moment in time? I think with the onset of digitized communication, which is just becoming our norm, with the hatred that is pummeled out by world leaders, I think the world is going to become more divisive. And yet I think the normal person in the world doesn't want that. The normal person, any normal person, irrespective of which country you come from, just wants to be happy, wants to have a peaceful
Yes,
life, has no axe to grind with any
definitely.
other person in the world. So we are being manipulated all the time by propaganda and false flags, and what governments want us to believe, because governments will, through the concept of fear, will have more control over us. That's what happens. If you look through the ages, the more fear you have in society, the more compliant society becomes. So where are we heading as a world? I think we seem to be heading down, in some ways, down the wrong path. But I actually think that largely the world will become a much better place because people are becoming much more awakened. I think people are much more intelligent than they used to be. People are much more aware than they used to be. People have access to far more information than they've ever had, and they will form their own opinions. I think the way we communicate with each other is going to change significantly. You know, the beauty is that the three of us in three different locations in the UK can talk to each other and then share that conversation with other people in the UK and elsewhere
Yes,
is just incredible. I've had Facebook lives where, you know, I've been talking to somebody in Australia, somebody in India at the same time. How incredible is that? So I think, you know, the technology and the ability to communicate around the world will actually lessen boundaries and lessen borders. The world will become a much smaller place in that sense. In a
hmm,
spiritual sense, while ever we've got all this turmoil going on, I think in Hinduism they talk about, you know, we're in the era of Kali Yoga, and that is the age of spiritual enlightenment, where, you know, we're going to, excuse me a minute, where we're going to go through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, but out of that will
yes,
arise this spiritual awareness and spiritual light, awakening. And I think we're going into that because if you look around you, how many people are becoming much more spiritually aware, exploring the deeper sense of who they are. And
yes.
I think there's a beautiful sort of potential for something magical to happen in the world. I really do. I think in a spiritual sense, we're going somewhere quite special.
Yeah, yeah, you
I
are
think
right.
the vision.
What you
Sorry,
are
I was
saying
just going.
about
Sorry, you go. I'll say it. Sorry, go.
spirituality is also one area is quite getting noticed right now. Everybody is talking about mindfulness,
Mhm.
and that's the vibration of calming your mind. And as we are all working so hard, working day and night, when do you get time to calm your mind down? Nobody takes that 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes to calm their mind down. It's just running like a headless chicken, and then we are just running around and we are just saying that, oh, I got really bad backache, or I'm having suffering with cancer, I'm suffering with stress, I'm suffering with this. This is all because of not taking out time. How much
Yeah,
time you are spending with your loved ones? How much?
yeah,
Because we are actually become like a slave. We become slave to our own needs. We are not thinking about ourselves. We are just thinking about others. We are working for, okay, we have to work, go to work and work for somebody else, but you have to look after yourself first before you can serve other person, because we are not serving ourselves, we are serving others with all our ability. When it comes to serve our loved ones, literally said that we are tired, sorry, we can't we can't spend time with you.
mhm.
That's quite a, dynamic shift, or a paradigm shift in the way we look at our siblings, or the way we look at our loved ones. And that's why there are a lot of tension between parents, tension between couples, tension between children, and tension between siblings. So this is all the cultivation of not taking time out,
Mhm.
not taking time out.
I agree, 100%.
Stress basically has become a part of life. It's become a way of life, really, isn't it? Half of the
Mhm.
problems people go to the doctors for, the answer they get is simply it's due to stress. Whatever it is, they're just shifted to being stressed out, and
Absolutely.
which is probably true in cases,
But
right?
stress
But what I
can
was
be
going
a
to
stress. There could be a good stress and there could be a bad stress. But good stress where you're going to be flourishing your life because you
Yeah.
are determined, you know your purpose, you know your vision, and then you're going to say, you know, that stress is not a stress. This is I'm enjoying it.
Mm.
Every time I do that, I enjoy it, and that I love that stress. Actually, I get a burst from that stress.
I call
But
that
the bad,
excited anticipation.
yeah,
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 that does not cause any negative feelings within you. That I'm sure that does not harm you in any way or brings you down in any way. That uplifts you because when you're focused, you want to you definitely bring on rather than sitting down and taking a rest, which you should do from time to time, really. But coming back to what Kul was saying about people being more spiritual, Kul, would you say that, as you said, you know, this part of this era is that of Kal Yuga, as you said earlier. And if you break the word down, that means the era of lies. Kal means lies. And we are in such a stage today that everybody's running for materialism, for material success. And yes, you're right in saying that a lot of people have turned towards their spiritual side and they are trying to uplift them spiritually. But would you say that there's a clear division in the world within the people who are going down the road, who are not bothered, are not even aware, are not interested in being aware, and then there's this other section where people are awakening to the spiritual side and are working on it?
Um, that's a good question. I'm not sure that the split is that distinct. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different stages on the spectrum. So
Okay.
on the one extreme of the spectrum, you have the individuals who blindly chase money,
Mm-hmm.
blindly chase the next possession, blindly chase power and position and status and all of these kind of things. That is their God. That's all they believe in. That's all they want. They sow a path of destruction. They may sow a path of destruction to getting what they want. They may hurt other people to get what they want, or they may hurt themselves to get what they want. They may, ruin their relationships because they're blindly chasing this one single vision, and that is money. But fundamentally, I think what every single human being in the planet wants is happiness. So
Yes,
those people
definitely.
who are chasing money are only chasing money and possessions because they think that that's what's going to make them happy. And it might do, who knows? So you have those people on that end of the spectrum.
Hmm.
Then you have people on this end of the spectrum, and they are the people that say, you know what, money doesn't matter, possessions don't matter, attachment to relationships outside doesn't matter. I'm going to go and I'm going to go on top of a mountain and I'm going to live in solitude forever and a day because I don't think that's right either. I think the true test of spirituality is when you can live with a mind, with us in a sense of mindfulness, in
Mm-hmm.
control of your ego, in control of your awareness, in control of your spirit, but surrounded by a noisy world. That's a true test of spirituality. Can you remain spiritual in a noisy world? So I think you have people at all sorts of ends of the spectrum, along the spectrum, but I think generally there is a greater awareness. We're nowhere near where we need to be, but there's a greater awareness of not just spirituality, but within spirituality, I will also include there's a greater awareness of this hidden power that we have.
Yeah.
Now, you might call this power um, your soul. You might call this power your energy. You might call this power your chi. You might call this power your atma, your spirit, your
Yeah.
ghost, whatever you want to call it. You can call it 101 things. But throughout all the ages, every single major philosophy has always talked about something here, this energy. Every major
Yeah.
philosophy,
Yeah.
the Chinese, the Hindus, the Muslims, every
Yeah.
single religion, even Christianity, talks about the spirit. So there's got to be something there. If we look at it from a religious perspective, there's got to be something there. If we look at it from a scientific perspective, there's got to be something there because we are all fragmentations of this unique and omnipotent energy source out there. The universe quantum physics tells us that matter doesn't exist, that everything is energy. If you got a microscope powerful enough, it would find out that we're all subatomic particles just resonating with energy. That's all we are. And so is everything else around us. And the same energy that makes us up is the same energy that makes it universal. Therefore, we are always connected to that universal power source. But what we don't do is flick the switch to on. We're a bit like a radio. A radio always has this ability to give you beautiful music, whatever genre you're interested in, whether it's classical rock, 1980s music, which is what I was listening to early on today when I was painting my deck in. But the radio always has the ability to play beautiful music. Yeah. But it will only play beautiful music when you turn it on. Most of us don't turn themselves on. And that is the power. Now, just imagine, I always say, just imagine what could happen to an individual's life if they realized, if they believed, if they understood that they had this incredible power and they decided that it was about time to turn it on. What could happen in their life? What revelations, what incredible mysteries could be unleashed, what incredible power, what incredible magic could occur in their lives. Now, most people start believing that. Most people start getting that, and they get really excited. But then I have the problem, or we have the problem, that, okay, I'm really excited now. I'm really believing that something can happen in my life. I'm really believing that I can have far more than I ever thought I could ever have. But I have to put in the hard work. Because clicking that button to on is work. It takes effort. And switching ourselves on and off is effort.
I would like to make a joke over here about, we all know there is the hierarchy of needs. We know that what the hierarchy of needs is. The basic needs is shelter, food, and these are the basic needs, that we don't have a shelter and food. But now everybody has added another one, is that Wi-Fi is very important to be included in that hierarchy, because without Wi-Fi, you won't be able to do your business, correct? So what I'm saying is, as you were talking about the switch, now with the Bluetooth, we can send a signal to a switch as well to turn on the light as well for us. So it's the matter of how you want to look at it, because everybody's looking at the shortcuts. It's about what you were talking about, the spiritual life or the material. It's all about creating a balance in both of it. If you have a harmonious balance between them, no religion says that you need to be spiritual for all your life and then forget about your siblings and your parents and your everybody else, or you will be completely materialistic and forget about your religion. They're saying creating a balanced life. If you have a balanced life, you can flourish without a doubt.
Even when it comes to your diet, they say, if you have everything in moderation, everything in balance, then you could have a better nutritious life. You see, we keep coming to this point around, in life, we find it really hard to put in the effort. This is why I do the kind of coaching that I do. So, there's 3 ways of helping people through your learning. You can have it DIY, where you say to them, I'm going to tell you stuff, and then you go away and do it yourself. You could have the second element, which is do it with you, where I will teach you the stuff, but I'm going to work through this with you. I'll be holding your hand as you're doing it. And then you have the third element for those people who really don't want to do it, and say, look, I'll do everything for you. I'll provide all your services. I'll do all the work for you. A bit like, Sam was talking about, somebody said, sell this for me. You go away and you do everything for them. So what will they ever learn? Nothing. They will never learn how to achieve anything. And yet, if you said, do it yourself, what would happen? They would probably say, well, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to give up straight away. So that's why all my programs, my coaching is called Immersion Coaching, and I only work with those clients who are discerning clients. I don't work with those clients who look at money first. I look at clients who are sitting on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and they say, right, I've got my food and shelter, I've got my family, I've got my community, I've got my job, but I'm itching for something else. I'm itching to do more. I'm itching to reach a higher level. I work with those kind of people, those people at the very top of the pyramid, because I know that they're going to put the effort in. But what I do with them is I sit all day with them and we go in very, very deep. And then we come out at the end of the day with a roadmap, a month by month action plan for them for the next 3 years. But I do it with them. I hold their hand as they going throughout the day. It's the same when, I have a course called Create and Speak, which is teaching people how to speak confidently, how to build successful events. And I talk about my event, Ignite Your Inner Potential, how I managed to get it from 0 people in January 2017 to 200 people in a football stadium in January 2018. And I also talk about branding, how to create this authentic brand. But what I make it purposely, I make it very, very intensive. So it's a 2-day residential, but what they do on day 1, they work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. Because the reason why I created this course was I got fed up of how many courses out there that were out there that were all about speaking. But basically what they were doing was, it was a DIY. They came, they taught them the information that they needed to know, and then they sent them on their way and said, right, go and do it yourself. Whereas I want to do it with people. So I work one-to-one with the attendees on this course. We have small groups and we go into this very, very deep. They create their own signature speech with their own story, and I work and I coach them through that story. So when they come out on the second day, they are very, very powerful speakers already. And then I teach them how to create events, so they could create an event around that story. And that's doing it with you. So I think sometimes as coaches, that's what we need to do. We need to work with the client to help the client, to hold the client's hand, to create whatever it is that they want to create. Because if they got super lazy, like Ritu was saying, and you did everything for them, that's not going to help them. If you left everything to them, they'll get overwhelmed and they won't do anything anyway. So you have to do it with them. And that's what I do with my courses.
Excellent. So for your upcoming workshop, which is on the 7th and 8th of July, is that correct?
That's right. Create and Speak workshop coming to Derby on the 7th and 8th of July. This is the third time we're running it.
Yeah,
I'm really
excellent.
excited.
And so I've got the link which I'm going to be sharing on this feed today. So people who are be listening now or listening later will be able to see that link, and they will be applying for your workshop, which is in July. And I think that the workshop which you're talking about, I was looking at your workshop, last one, the Ignite Your Potential, which is also your signature workshop, which you delivered. And then you were, your specialty, which I really enjoy in your workshop, is about the Bhangra. And that's my...
Can I just say that was an accident. That came by as an accident. So
really,
at the very first Ignite Your Inner...
hear that story.
Yeah, at the very first Ignite Your Inner Potential, we had 70 people. We were in this room. We had lots of music playing, because the way I get people outside their comfort zone, I force them to get up and I get them to dance, all right? And at one point, I got really excited and I just shouted over to my AV guy. I said, have we got any Bhangra? And he says, yeah. I said, put some on. So I started dancing to the Bhangra and everybody else started joining in. So the next event, people were ringing me up and saying, I just love that Bhangra, and can you do some more? Can you do some more? So now it has become my signature, the Bhangra. Yeah. So everywhere I go to speak now, people are saying to me, can you play some Bhangra? I said, well, if you got some sound system, we'll get some Bhangra and we'll get everyone dancing. And it's, as far as I know, it's the world's only Bhangra inspired motivational event. And people are now calling me. I had a newspaper article, a magazine article written on me a few months ago, and I was called the Punjabi Tony Robbins.
Wow.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's amazing. I have a question, Cool, and I was going to ask you, of course, whatever I agree with what you've said about pushing people out of their comfort zone and working through it with them rather than just giving a DI or making them too over, doing it all for themselves, and Do you think it is relatively easy to ignite that spark, and then it is a bit harder to keep it going?
In a way, yes. In a way, no.
Mm-hmm.
I always liken it to, when you have a car that's broken down, it's harder to get it moving, but once it's moving, it gets easier.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I actually think it's harder to start taking the action. But once you take the action, all you need to then do is maintain the action, because then you have momentum. So the
Mm-hmm.
initial inertia is actually doing something that you've never done before, is actually making that decision to
Mm-hmm.
take the action, and then it becomes easier because then momentum has kicked in. Where it becomes hard, however, is in the maintaining, is ensuring that you can keep this going. And they very often say that to form a new habit, you have to do something 20 to 30 times. So I say to people, I have a thing that I do on my own private group called the 4C challenge. So I get a group of people who want to create some sort of goal for the month, and I say, okay. So we created another little group called the 4C challenge, and I tell you what the 4Cs are. And I say, for an hour a day, you just need to take action towards that goal, just for
Okay.
an hour a day, and only for 5 days a week, not 7 days,
Okay.
5 days a week. And I guarantee you, if you just took 1 hour of action towards that goal
Mm-hmm.
every single day for a week, 5 days a week, by day 30, your life will be totally different in that area. Now, you have to
Mm-hmm.
promise to be in alignment with what I call my 4 C's. And actually, they're 5 C's
Okay.
now. I'll tell you what they are. The first one is that you need to be committed. You need to be
Okay.
100% committed to the outcome. The second
Okay.
one is you need to be consistent. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
consistent to the end outcome that you desire. There's no point in doing some action over here that is just not in alignment with the goal that you've set for yourself. All right. So that stops you from getting distracted. You need to be constant. There's no point in taking action for 2 days and then having a rest for 3 days.
Yeah.
It's a bit like going to the gym, working really hard for a week, and your body's starting to ache, and you're really proud of yourself, and then you think, do you know what? I'll take 4 days off. It doesn't work. You have to be constant. And the next C is that you need to be congruent. You need to be congruent with your values. Only do something that's linked to your values, that is in line with your values, because otherwise you will not feel comfortable doing it. So those are, and my fifth C is that you need to be concerted. So whatever it is that you're doing, you need to be concerted. That means laser sharp focus. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot allow distractions to kick in. You tell yourself, I'm going to be disciplined for half an hour. And when you do this, rather than multitask, I don't believe in multitasking, but if you just focus on one job at a time, you find that you do that job to a
Mm-hmm.
much higher standard and in much less time. So that's what I do
Yeah.
with the 4C challenge. And I just think that that's the easiest way to get results. It is about maintenance, it's about continuing the momentum. But sometimes we hit that brick wall, don't we? But when you hit the
Cool,
brick
you've
wall,
also written a book, haven't you? Smash the Habit.
yeah, yeah,
You haven't spoken about that.
yeah, I wrote that book a couple of years ago. I'm actually writing 2 more books this year, but Smash the Habit was really about people are saying to me, I used to talk very often about, how 14 years ago I gave up smoking. I used to be 20 cigarettes a day. I was a big drinker. I was a whiskey connoisseur, and I was drinking at least 4 pints a night. And, I was eating meat. I was a big meat eater. I was eating the biggest steaks that you could find. And just overnight, I made a decision that I didn't want any of that. And I stopped drinking overnight and stopped smoking overnight. And I don't eat meat, fish, or eggs. I gave that up overnight. And I realized that there is this incredible power that you have within you. We call it
Mhm.
willpower sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you activate that, you can achieve anything. 4 years ago, I gave up tea and coffee overnight and orange juices overnight. And now I only drink green tea. A couple of years ago, I gave up milk overnight and I only have almond milk. So I'm getting that bit older. So I've decided that I need to look after myself that much more. And it is about my personal health, but it's also about some spiritual stuff, in terms of karma and things like that. And karma, I think, is a weight that you place on your soul, and there's already enough weight on our souls without adding to it even more. And the drinking is all about, I want to be responsible for all the thoughts that go on inside my head and not have to use the excuse that, oh, I only said that because I was drunk. I don't want to use that excuse, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's about responsibility for myself.
So one thing I would like to add in over here, when you talk about the consistency, because the habit creating requires, according to London School of Economics, is 66 days. Yeah, they have done this experiment of creating a new habit or diminishing a new habit requires 66 days. And that's what is required. You need to do it every single day. You can't break it in between and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to take a day off. It doesn't work like that, as you said. That's what the requirement is used to be called 33 days before, and people used to say 21 days, 33 days, but as you say, it requires 66 days to ingrain that habit into your system. And with that, actually, that habit ingrained in you becomes your daily routine, daily exercise. You do it every day. Like we are from our childhood, we've been told brush your teeth in the morning. Every morning, our mom and dad also used to say, brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth. It's ingrained in your head. You wake up in the morning, you go straight to the loo and you start brushing your teeth. You're not going to say, no, I'm not going to brush my teeth. Correct? So
Yeah.
that requires 66 days. And about your book, where I've actually listened to your book, and I know exactly what you are talking about in that as well, smashing the habit. And that's again is putting the same cycle on it to consistent. And your 5 C's is point on, is a laser focus. You need to be focused about it. You need to be consistent about it. You need to be congruent with your feeling as well. You can't just started to feel something else and you are not actually focusing on that. So it's
Absolutely.
important.
I think life is all about, if you want any transformation in your life, it is all about momentum, consistency, about being focused, about doing the same actions over and over and over again. It's only when you do the same actions over and over again will they become your new routine. If you do different actions on different days, you'll never have a routine. You know, and that's the truth of it.
Yeah,
So that's what I believe, and that's what I practice myself, and that's why I guess I'm able to break so many habits in my life, and create new habits as well.
hmm,
I've created so many new habits; it's incredible.
excellent, excellent. So we,
Ignite your true potential. Your big thing that you do, cool, and you're doing the next one in Derby, aren't you?
Yeah, the we have an annual one now. Last year we did about 3 or 4. Now it's become an annual thing, and the next one's going to be in Derby. It's going to be in January. We haven't set a date yet. We will be setting a date soon, but it's going to be in Derby, and I'm hoping to get 400 people there this time. Last year,
hmm,
this year gone, we had 200 people there. Next year, I
hmm,
want 400 people there, and I want to keep growing this. I get a lot
Of
of fun
course.
out of it. I really enjoy seeing some of the feedback from people and how it's touched their lives. And I've had
hmm,
some incredible stories that people have told me about how that one event has transformed people's lives. It's just incredible. And to think that I've been a part of somebody's life transformation is just one of the most beautiful things you can think of, you know? So that's
That's
why
true. That's
I'm
so
inspired to keep it going.
absolutely beautiful, absolutely
excellent.
beautiful. I will. So we have going to put your link about how to get enrolled to your workshop, which is happening in July. But if
Yeah.
people want to connect with you, uh, do they connect with you via Facebook or do they connect with you via your website? How would you like them to be connecting with you?
They can connect through my website. They can contact me through the website.
Hmm,
That's and I also have a Facebook group called
hmm,
Ignite Your Inner Potential. It's a
hmm,
private group. They're
Okay.
more than welcome to
hmm.
join the private group as well.
Yeah, sure. And do you have any more questions, Ritu?
Now, I think I have asked all the questions I had been thinking of, and I have had some real insights into a lot of stuff, cool. So I think just by speaking to you for this short while, you have opened up quite a few windows, if anything. And people who've been listening, they'll agree with me that what you have said, if that was practiced, there's no habit you can't get rid of or can't include into your life if it's beneficial. There's no way that you can't walk on. There's no path that should be left untrodden. And there's nothing that can stop you from achieving what you put your mind on, because eventually all that matters is the hidden part. Of course, stuff outside affects us. There are labels and there are limitations, and we are physical beings, so there's certain things we can't do. However, if we are determined, there's nothing that can't be turned around. And I would just like to say a huge thank you to Kul for sharing his wisdom with us. And I would, as Sam said, we've got a link which we're going to post with the interview. So I would like to say to people that please do look at that and join in. There's nothing to lose.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, guys. It's been an absolute honor and privilege for me.
It's
really
a pleasure that you came along. It was what I call it, is our fate, because last week we were supposed to put you on to our show, and sometimes things happens. We can't have everything in our hand. So luckily that you were free today and we were free, and then we managed to bring this on, and now we already delivered it. So it's amazing that everything comes together, and it was the right time. Actually, it might not be the right time last week. So everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for the reason. And we are very humble that you acknowledge it. And hidden power, everybody got hidden power, as you mentioned in your talk, in our discussion. And it's all about how you ignite it. And I know, and Ritu know that without not having a coach, you won't be able to go to the next level. Everybody says, oh, I can do it myself. Yeah, sure. How long you're going to do it yourself? You need to have somebody to help you go to the next level.
I've always had mentors and coaches in my life, always. And even now, as I coach other people, I have mentors and coaches in my life now. And I always see my coaches as my mirrors. They are the mirrors that I look into when I talk to them, when I share with them my utmost, deepest thoughts, that they can then reflect back to me and help me to think deeper. Because that's what a coach does. A coach will help you to think deeper. A coach will help you to be much more incisive. But a coach will encourage you, empower you, and support you to become the very, very best version of who you are and who you were designed to be. And Ritu, you're absolutely right. There is literally nothing that I can think of that can stop us from achieving, doing, being whatever we choose to be. There's always a way around. And like the old saying, where there's a will, there's always a way.
There is a way. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, everybody who has joined us and who are going to be watching us. This is Sam Dosa with my co-host Ritu Sharma and our amazing guest called Mahay. We have to say goodbye for now, and hopefully see you soon with another amazing personality who will be sharing their life experiences and wisdom with us. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye-bye.